Anyway, it's great to see everyone, and happy belated birthday to you, Councilor Fail.
Thank you.
Yesterday.
Thank you very much.
Had a good, big birthday, I think. didn't
We
you?
had a nice time.
Good, that's great. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved. Zach?
All right, we have one annexation for you guys tonight. This is 0.84 acres located at 11623 Lake Nickel Road. And again, this can be adopted by unanimous consent following introduction tonight. So this is the location of the property. It's pretty far out there, past the spillway on Lake Nickel Road. An aerial of the property. It's not this whole piece. So when we made this map, our GIS wasn't up to date yet because they went through a subdivision as well on that same night. So that little yellow house there, and you can kind of see that here. That's the lot 2 right there is the only piece that's being annexed into the city. Lot 1 is going to remain in the county. The framework, framework identifies growth priority areas. This is just the information there that you guys kind of evaluate as you look at annexations.
Could you back up one slide, please?
Yes, sir. So these are identified in framework as kind of what you guys look at for.
So these are not the ones relevant to that property. These are the,
These are
the
just in
general-
general. Yes, sir.
okay.
Just out of curiosity, will we go out there and pick up their trash and garbage?
So on this slide, you can see we actually send out. So we check that ahead of time and we let them know ahead of time. Hey, garbage is not going to be provided at this location, or it is. So Environmental Services has identified this as not being in their service area. And they are just annexing to get into city schools. That's the reason.
Sure, that was my understanding. I got a phone call last night, but we did make sure they understood that
Yes, sir.
once you're, it's like the Hotel California.
Yes, sir.
Once you
Once you're in.
check in, you check out, you never leave. So I mean, that's right.
That's right.
Check
'Cause I actually, Wayne Waddell laughed the other day when I told him we were calling that the Waddell rule at City Hall, that they have to sign an initial that they understand they're in forever. Did you know that, Mr. Bobbitt?
That's all I've
It's
got
all
for you.
good. It's all good.
Thank you, Zach.
Is,
Bobby Herndon actually called me about that.
Zach, does the property have to be contiguous?
It does. Yes, sir.
And that is?
It is. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Zach. Alrighty, Mayor is of course not here, will not be here today. This last Saturday, how'd that go? Heritage House.
It was, I was gonna say, we had I thought a good crowd. Walt did a good job with, what we talked about, and we talked about a lot of stuff together. I think we got a lot of really good questions that were very, applicable to kind of things that are happening right now.
Ooh, big word.
A lot of public safety questions. There were a lot of questions about water bills.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
that-
Yes.
And Chris was there, he heard them, but there were a lot of good questions. It really wasn't I hate to say it wasn't a lot of complaining, but there were some issues that were there. I think a lot of people were concerned about, different things in the city. I thought it was a good conversation.
Thank you. Randy, could you ask if Alvin could be here next week? And I'm glad you brought that up because I'm getting a renewed number of complaints again. It got real quiet there for a while. And a lady sent me her last 4 bills and it's so erratic. It's like one month is the 7th day, the next month is the 22nd day. And people, especially on fixed incomes and get the checks on certain times, anyway, maybe he can help explain to us.
Something's happened, Kip, about just, I don't know, it's almost like the bills are a couple weeks later than normal.
And then by the time they get them, they're due.
Yeah, and then and people freak out about that, I mean, a couple people that have called me are retired, and they're like, well, I haven't gotten a bill. And then sometimes when you get a bill, it'll give you a disconnection notice. That's happened to me before.
I've had some people in my district, 2 businesses. One had the meter one business's address was connected to somebody else's meter, so it was ironic and
That's not good.
not good, right? So I love to have them to come too.
Yeah, that'd be great, Alvin. Alvin does, I don't think anybody handles the public better than Alvin. But, and they always tell me that too, but there's apparently a problem. Still. All right, so Thursday, TCTA, August 10th, August 17th, Skyland Elementary, and then Catch and Taste out in Alberta on Monday, August 28th. And by the way, counselors,
That one.
and I'll get Vicky to get this too, circle September 14th from 4 to 6 at SWJ in Alberta. It's going to be international news. What's about to come out of that building.
Okay.
And it's going to be, oh yeah, and to think that it's going to be a game changer for transportation, and to think it was invented in the city of Tuscaloosa. And especially in Alberta spot that 10 years ago was the 7th highest crime rate in the entire city. Now you got an international company that's going to be international news making September 14th. So please be there
You'll remind us, I'm sure.
every day. I got to talk to the governor's office today, and she's
Who was responsible for
Couldn't
getting
be
that there? Was that their former councilman? Was that Dr. Dockery? Who was that? It's a joke.
security.
Exactly. I mean,
Chief,
Council
Chief, did
President,
you?
We'll take care of it later.
Council
Okay.
President Taylor? That's a joke.
That was.
We're just kidding, we're lighting it up,
That was
we're lighting it up.
not fun.
No.
Okay, anyway. Oh dear,
Why we laugh?
I know why we
I
laugh.
thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. Okay,
All right, so board appointments. You
Yes.
guys go back with me. Last week, we talked about the Tuscaloosa County Board of
How many
Equalization.
weight have you lost this week? I don't know.
Leave it to him to interrupt us.
Yeah, move your chair.
So last week, we talked about Tuscaloosa County Board of Equalization.
yeah,
You all received the 4 resumes that we got, while we advertised. If you guys remember, from that 4, we have to select 3 names to nominate to send to the state. And then the Commissioner of Revenue will appoint from all of the nominees that they receive from all the other nominating bodies. So if you guys look at that packet in front of you, you'll have Bob Lundell, Jim Waltman, David Michael Henderson, and Michael Reif as your potential nominees.
I would say we have to have 3 of these 4, and I would take the first 3, and the reasons because the last one lives in Vance, and the other's in Tuscaloosa. So I would,
I'm fine with that.
That's fine with me.
Is that fine with everyone?
That's fine with me.
yeah, we'll take the first 3.
Alright, so I'll have a resolution on the council agenda next week. Keep
Lundell,
in mind, you all will
Henderson.
have to sign the official
Walt.
report prior to me sending it to the state, so I'll circulate that between now and next week, okay?
Okay,
Alright.
thank you, Brandy. Mr. Holmes, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
That's okay. You know, I'll get you.
I am up here on number 7, public hearings, where you will be setting, on page 12, you'll be setting the cost of demolition for the structure at 1702 T.Y. Rogers Jr. Avenue and authorizing the filing of a lien. On page 13, you'll be concurring with the appointment of Eric Thompson as acting executive director of construction facilities and grounds. On page 14, you'll be authorizing payment to USI Insurance Services of Alabama for the renewal of EMT home health care professional liability insurance coverage. That's a total of $6,435.26. That is doubled up, and we'll discuss it in finance today. On page 15, you'll be authorizing amendment number 2 to task order directive number 3 and 3A with TTL for engineering and related services for the Cypress Creek Sidewalk Project, section C and D. That is a total increase of $12,000 and for TOD number 3 and $37,590 for TOD number 3A. That was discussed in projects last week. On page 16, you'll be authorizing a minor public works contract with Anchor Parking and Perimeter Security Incorporated. That has a total of $10,000 and $10,202 $10,222. Sorry, I'm out of practice. And that was discussed in projects last week. On page 17, you'll be authorizing a primary services agreement and task order directive number 1 with CCR Architecture, Interiors, and Professional Design and Related Services. This is a total not to exceed $74,500 and was discussed in projects last week. On page 18, you'll be authorizing a minor public works contract with Hughes and Mullenix. That's a total of $1,800 and was discussed in projects last week. On page 19, you'll be authorizing a disbursement from District 1 Improvements Fund for the Backpack Coalition. That's a total of $500 and was discussed in Finance Committee last week. On page 20, you'll be authorizing a disbursement from District 2 Improvement Funds for the 10-4 Corporation. That is a total of $1,300 and was discussed in Finance Committee last week. On page 21, you'll be authorizing a disbursement from District 2 Improvement Funds for the backpack giveaway. That is a total not to exceed $3,500 and again was discussed in Finance last week. On page 22, you'll be authorizing the mayor to execute a work authorization number G0423 with Atkins North America, Inc. for professional engineering services for the design and bid phase of the airfield lighting vault replacement. That is a total not to exceed $182,521.18 and was discussed in projects last week. On page 23, you'll be authorizing minor public works contract with Southern Heating and Cooling LLC. That is a total of $2,750. That is doubled up and is on projects today. On page 24, you'll be authorizing a contract with NEC Corporation of America and declaring a bid law exemption pursuant to Alabama Code 41-16-51A15. That is a total of $45,261 and is bid exempt due to security reasons. On page 25, you'll be authorizing a contract with Blazing Fire and Water, Inc. and declaring a bid law exemption pursuant to Alabama Code Section 41-16-51A15. And again, that is a total of $117,210 and again is bid exempt based upon being security related.
What is?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
It's TBDs. The
The-
exceptions.
The 117,000
That's gonna be the, no, that is the
breaching equipment.
it was discussed.
It was discussed previously.
What?
We had it at committee.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
We talked about it in a committee with the fingerprint machine as well.
Okay. Right.
On page 26, you'll be authorizing the mayor to add an additional funding to an authorized 2020 Home Improvement Partnership Program contract with Tuscaloosa Housing Authority and Development of affordable housing. That came from CD committee last week. On page 27, you'll be authorizing the mayor to execute a grant agreement with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the 2022 Grant Assistance for Homeless Management Information Systems. That came from CD committee last week. On page 28 and 29, you'll be adopting the city's 2023 Action Plan for Community Planning and Development Programs and authorizing the submissions of the plan to the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Department. That came from CD committee last week. On page 30, you'll be authorizing the Office of Community and Neighborhood Services to make budget and program changes through a local amendment to the 2019 Action Plan for the city's 5-year consolidated plan for community planning and development programs for the planning year program 2015 through 2019, and that came from CD committee last week. On page 31, you'll be authorizing the execution of agreements, amendments, and related documents for services provided to the city of Tuscaloosa by Apple. And that came from projects last week. On page 32, you'll be approving job class specifications for art and entertainment operations. This came from admin last week. We'll skip over the annexation and we'll be next on page 36 through 38. You'll be amending section 2-4 of the Code of Tuscaloosa. That was discussed in admin last week. On page 39, you'll be amending exhibits A and B of section 19-42 and 1960A of the Code of Tuscaloosa. This was related to that art and entertainment operations position we mentioned previously and was discussed in admin last week. On page 40, you'll be amending exhibits A and B of the section 1942/1960A of the Code of Tuscaloosa, and this is for a construction facilities and grounds position, which was discussed in admin last week. On page 41, you'll be amending section 19-261A3 of the Code of Tuscaloosa. This was discussed in admin last week. And finally, on page 42, you'll be authorizing amendment number 18 to the fiscal year 2023 general fund budget, and that came from finance on last week. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Any questions for Scott?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Projects 230, finance 315, public safety 4, all look rather short agendas. Council meeting at 6. We have, don't forget, work session Thursday morning at 8. They have agency funding hearings. You know how many are signed up, Mr. Buzz? Councilman? 9.
Well, actually 8.
This
One
Thursday?
wasn't able to make it.
Okay,
And next Thursday.
and
And it-
personnel board, meet the following Thursday at 8:30. I have something I'd like to bring to Ashley's attention for help. I am, seems to be absolutely bombarded. District 5 is under siege for short-term rentals. If we could get together somehow and I would like to look at some, explore all options, maybe owner occupied or do what some other cities have done and excluding R1 or just something, because this board, except for 2 people, continue to tell me they can't say no. And I know you wanna run out this door screaming right now, cause I know that's not what you told them. But that's what they continue to say and do. So, and it's very frustrating for me, and it's very frustrating for the neighbors, hoods who spend so much time, opposition, petitions, showing up for however long it takes.
Yes, sir.
If you can, and
We'll look at it.
thank you, and I really appreciate it. It's gotten way out of control, in my opinion. Okay, let's see. Anybody else have anything to bring before pre-council? Okay, is there a motion that we adjourn?
So moved, second.
Motion to adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.